Hi, this is Charles Epstein for the X Factor podcast. Making his first appearance before these microphones is Harold G. Ford III, yes, the third, who is the practice director for the Employer Solutions practice at Net at Work. For over 25 years, Harold has helped thousands of companies throughout North America improve workflow processes, achieve business objectives, and align HR to business strategy. Before I bring him on, I have some breaking news. Harold has agreed to join our distinguished panel of rotating co-hosts, bringing what I'm calling a field-level perspective to AI and HR. Harold and I are going to be asking our guests to answer the question, how should organizations rethink their day-to-day HR, IT, and business processes and all the associated organizational challenges in the age of AI? So without further ado, Harold Ford III. Harold, hey.
How's it going? I'm very excited to be here, Charles. Very excited. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. No, and I should mention Harold is joining us from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which I believe is Amish country, no?
Yes, good old Amish country here. I'm not Amish, and there's always a fight of, is it Lancaster or Lancaster? And it's, us locals call it Lancaster, K-I-S.
I see.
So.
I see. Well,
the rest of the world calls it Lancaster. So.
Aha. Well, now that we're on pronunciation and clarification, is it Amish or Amish? I pronounce it Amish, which is probably incorrect.
I would say Amish is how they're known.
You would say Amish. And by the way, I would say that it would be kind of a contradiction. I don't know how you would actually be pursuing this line of work if you were in fact Amish.
That's right. A lot of technology in my resume. For sure.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure you can get to and from work in a horse and buggy, but I don't know what you do once you get there.
That's right.
Could be a problem. Anyway, Harold, first of all, thanks so much for taking the time. And yes, I'm excited. We're excited that you've agreed to do this and do this on a rotating basis. And we have a lot, we'll get to what we're going to be addressing in a bit as we get into this. And actually, before we do get to it, I'm sure I skipped over a lot of ground in your intro. If you would tell our listeners what I didn't tell them about what they need to know about you, Harold Ford III, not Harold Ford II or the first. This is Harold Ford III we're talking to. So you've had at least 3 versions to improve on the previous 2 versions, I'm assuming, Harold.
That's right. I don't know about improve, but enhance maybe.
Enhance. Well, tell us what people need to know about you to feel like it's safe to buy a used car from you.
Oh my, used car. Well, if we're going to talk the generations of the third and junior and the first, my dad was a used car salesman for over 40 years before he retired. So what's interesting about that, when I saw in him in his role in his organization, was the trusted advisorship he gave his folks, the people that came to him. So much so that he had so many customers come back to him time and time again and buying cars over and over again from him. And I saw that amount of ethics in his work, the truthfulness, the open communication from him, the transparency from him, really to take to what I do every day. I won't get into my long and storied bio. I like to tell folks that I've been doing this stuff since I was in second grade. So for, like you said, past 25 years, I've really been a trusted advisor to businesses. Most of our customers, they've been working with us and with me for over 20 years. And that resiliency, that retention says a lot. It says that, they come to seek, really changes in strategy and updates of transformation. And my team and myself is there to help them.
Yeah, no, trust is the coin of the realm when you do this kind of work. Full disclosure, I've known the Net at Work guys for years. I've done some consulting work, and I will say that they do practice what they preach. They've grown the business the right way. The culture is really vibrant and strong, and I really admire, what they and your whole team, yourself included, Harold, you've done in building this, this juggernaut, which is Net at Work. So kudos to all involved. I know we don't want to necessarily dwell on your background, but a couple of things kind of leaped out and kind of interesting to me. You were a computer science major, and you worked in HR tech from the beginning. Why HR tech? How did you get into that? Was that by design or happenstance?
Not by design. We'll do a little Back to the Future, go back in the time machine a little bit here. When I was very, very young and introduced to computers, I really felt, boy, this is for me. This is what I want to do when I grow up. Fast forward to when I was looking at colleges, looking for a major, I really wanted to teach computer science in some way, shape, or fashion. But when I applied to colleges back in the day, and we are going back and I'm dating myself, there were no IT teaching degrees. So I became a CS major and I did all the CS stuff. I went through all the learnings of how to program and develop and use cutting edge technology of the day. And then I graduated, and all the jobs that I interviewed after college required programming in COBOL or Fortran or some legacy language, which, by the way, we did not study. Our professors were teaching us the languages for the future. And
Right.
business hadn't caught up. It's really interesting to me that transformation back then wasn't a standard practice like it is today. So fast forward, I was struggling a little bit with that and coming to the realization that I might be pigeonholed. And I get a call from my former advisor, college advisor, professor, saying that he had an opportunity. And based on my personality, my background, my career desire, and I should tell you, for those at home that are DISC assessment practitioners, I'm a very high I. So you can't get me behind a desk or in a locked closet programming day in and day out. That probably wasn't going to be my forte. And he said, based on all this, I've got this opportunity that you might be attracted to. So I interviewed with an accounting firm. They wanted to expand their reach with their clientele by offering from their HR consulting arm, HR and payroll technology to businesses. It was something that they were just thinking about. And I grew that business in the course of the short time I was there, from a fledgling startup to having about 200, 250 customers in a very short amount of time. So at the end of the day, if there's anything I can exude, is I love working in HR. It's provided me with that ability to use my people skills, use my high I, which I think would have been lost in the programming and development area. And ultimately, I got my wish. I got to teach thousands and thousands of people in HR and payroll teams about technology of the day, about transformation, about employee experiences.
Right.
And that's been very, very fulfilling.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you got to where you wanted to go, but through an unexpected path.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and that's often how it happens.
And I think that's often how it happens in the world of HR, right? If I go on a lot of speaking engagements, and I typically poll the group at a conference or at a regional show and say, how many of you started your career in the world of HR, or think that, when you went to college or post high school that you were going to be in HR? You don't get a lot of hands being raised.
No, exactly. I mean, so many, just have taken this unexpected, circuitous, sometimes path, and voila, there they are. So interesting. So tell us a little bit about what you do with Net at Work. I'm assuming to some extent is an extension of what you've described, having done with the accounting firm, bringing that forward. But explain, what it is you do, the types of challenges you and your team specialize in.
Sure. Yeah. So Net at Work in general, the organization works with primarily small and medium-sized businesses to unleash the power of their potential through the transformative power of technology. Now, I know that sounds like an advertisement, maybe a bit cliche, but our focus is moving the needle of business throughout the world and harnessing the power of all types of their technology to move that needle. So we provide software advisement, services advisement, support on all types of end-to-end business systems, whether it's ERP, CRM, e-commerce, IT, cloud. We do it all when it comes to the challenges that are faced from a technological lens of a business today. My practice specifically really works to help our customers through the digital transformation of their HR and payroll functions. So you name it, when it comes end to end about the workforce and employee experiences, we're there to provide that business advisement and, yes, services and software to support our customers really for a competitive advantage.
Right. Right. And that's exactly, why I really wanted to have you on as a recurring co-host, because, I think it's a real important perspective, the practitioner's perspective, the business owner, the head of HR, finance, or IT from an SMB company, particularly, again, we really haven't gotten into the AI part of our conversation, but particularly as it relates to AI, because, again, one of our missions is to bring the AI tablets down from the mountaintop, and where the tablet meets the road, if you will.
Right. Sure.
And so there would be, I think it's a very important perspective, which doesn't mean that it's all tactical and so forth. You can still be strategic in talking about AI and your technology stack. And, obviously AI doesn't exist apart from some of these other technologies that you're talking about. Often they're baked into it. But in any case, I'm really excited about us doing this, because we're going to be bringing that perspective. Let me ask you, what has been the single biggest change in your work, which is to say the workplace, in just, I don't know, the last 2-3 years?
Whew, that's a loaded question. Do I have to pick just one?
It is. You can take that. You can take that one out, drive it around for a little bit. Take it for a test drive.
Wow, yeah. I'm going to feel like Billy Joel singing "We Didn't Start the Fire," just rattling off all the significant workforce changes that happened in the past few years.
I know.
If I just think about it, just let's highlight some of the biggies first. We had a massive workforce disruption, which was called the pandemic, right? Organizations had to pivot and adapt to remote work and hybrid work, and some are still trying to figure all that out. We had a rise in the gig economy and freelance work. We've had employees say, hey, I'm seeking flexibility. You're not giving it to me, so I'm going to go seek it. I'm going to go find it. We had the Great Resignation. We had 47 million U.S. workers quit their jobs in 2021. We had 50 million workers quit in 2022 because they had a realization of what they wanted in their career and what they wanted from their employers, and they weren't getting it. And you add to all the economic changes that are happening, at the end of the day, then we've shifted, and the workforce kind of forced us to shift to an increased attention to DEI, an increased attention to employee well-being, to more flexible work-life integration. All of these things were drastic. And then all the while, which is kind of being, talked about, but not as talked about as these other kind of impactful challenges, we've had a massive workforce shift in the last few years where the younger generations are now the majority of the workforce.
Yes.
And these generations demand things that we weren't ready to give them. Things like purpose-driven work, things like emphasis on innovation and AI, transparency, authenticity. There's been so much change. I think that the greatest change really has to do with the realization of the employee experience. And now that we're in this, what I call the age of employee experience, and we've touted for so many years that, quote unquote, an employee is a company's greatest asset. Well, that has been come home to roost. That's a reality now. That is where we are today. That an employee truly is the number one vital, critical driver to a company's productivity, customer experience, brand equity, profitability. Boy, oh boy, you think even 5 years ago, we weren't there. And the technology stack, which is really, my forte and my company's forte, the company's technological platforms, which from a workforce perspective talks about, from recruitment to retirement, collaboration software, employee portals, mobile applications, generative AI. all employee experiences are drastically impacted by these things. So how do we harness that power of technology to deploy, really in this age of employee experience, transformation based on all these impactful measures that we've seen over the last few years?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You said that it wasn't that long ago where the idea of workforce transformation just wasn't on anybody's radar. It wasn't in our vocabulary. Now that is probably the most important concept, and mainly because things are coming at us so fast in so many directions, which of course brings us to AI. What are the questions you're getting from HR people you interact with? How do you characterize their response to AI? Are they fearful, hopeful, curious? What's your general impression?
Yeah, I think it's shifting. I talked about I go out and do speaking engagements. I do a lot of speaking. And when I go out to conferences or shows and I talk about specifically AI, after that conversation, people come up to me and we have conversations. And I would say that where we are on average is I'm being greeted with hesitational enthusiasm, I would say, meaning that the HR professionals see that there's value, but definitely have a reluctance to sprint out and take that leading edge on AI. They're curious, but they're cautious. I would tell you that, if I'll give you a great example. Over the last year and a half, I've been speaking on a topic that I've entitled AI Primer for HR, where we really get just to the nuts and bolts of AI, of why it's going to be useful. Here are some common areas where it could be useful for the world of human resources. And two things after those presentations that I typically hear. Number one, wow, Harold, you opened my eyes to a lot of opportunities and potential for AI in our business. And you've given me some very practical solutions. And the second thing I hear is, I've been so wary about this stuff. I've got a lot of catching up to do. How can you help me? So I think, from that perspective, people are very cautious. They're using it. They're using it in dribs and drabs. But there's another piece to this too, and it's the employees and the people. People are using AI. They're using it on their phones, as they're creating text messages or they're searching for something online. They're using the power of AI today. So we need to embrace it. And yes, with caution at times, but certainly need to be enthused about what it can do and the potential of what it can do for the business today.
Speaking of what it can do, and as you well know, AI is a very big term and it applies to a number of things, and it can be manifested in various ways. As we know, it could be a chat bot, it could be incorporated, baked into a performance management, talent acquisition platform, et cetera. It's baked into the consumer stuff, the platforms, Amazon and Netflix that we use on a day-to-day basis. So it's kind of interesting. I think it's important ultimately for people to understand how ubiquitous it is and how you need to look at AI, and it's not this one monolithic thing. It rears itself in a variety of guises and ways. When you talk with HR people, like right now, what would you say are the biggest opportunities they've either identified themselves or you're exposing them to? And what are the critical things that you tell them they need to guard against?
Yeah, there's so many opportunities. I think you've touched on some, and it's so all encompassing. I think it really takes a true education and learning in the world of AI so HR teams can tailor it to meet the demands of their business and their workforce. And I'll be honest with you, Charles, that's why I was so excited about being a participant here, because this venue, this opportunity allows us to provide HR professionals with, a tailored way to get educated on where AI plus the workforce can thrive. you've mentioned a few things, and from an HR lens, we've seen AI align with recruitment processes and onboarding and learning and chatbots and wellness initiatives, performance initiatives. There's a lot of real tactical benefits to the world of HR and specifically HR teams while driving improved employee experiences. But where I find this whole realm very intriguing is the workforce opportunity and HR's strategic role to play in those opportunities. I think that there's a lot of power for us to harness the power of AI to handle, routine tasks, mundane work, that our people do, not just us, that our people do. It goes beyond just writing a job description or creating an advertisement for a job. It's how do we empower our people so they can focus on higher value work, strategic initiatives, how they can focus on innovation. How do we help them harness and get the greatest value in the things that they love to do?
Yeah, no, well stated.
Yeah.
What are some of the topics we want to cover in upcoming episodes as we have you back on, and we'll bring on some other guests? Have you given some thought to this?
Absolutely. I have a variety of ideas. I keep talking employee experience because it is so vitally important to me. I love the world of HR, as I've said. I love working in the world of HR, but that's because I love changing the dynamic and the trajectory of the workforce, moving that needle for a business, making, folks not just comfortable, but excel in the jobs and their career paths as they move forward. So, to me, from a business acumen perspective, it's really about using and harnessing AI to transform the workforce for competitive advantage. But if I spin it into employee experiences, here are some thoughts. From a topic perspective, AI literacy and education for our workforce. How do we help them understand AI's potential and application specifically to their role? So custom tailored literacy. And, I mentioned before, if HR teams are fearful of artificial intelligence today, they're cautious and hesitant, just think about the workforce. Think about them. They've been told for years that AI is going to take their jobs. So we need to provide foundational knowledge to our teams on the capabilities, the limitations of AI. And yes, where do we always start with that? We typically start with that with writing a policy, right? Here's a policy. This is what you can and can't do. But it has to go beyond that. And I think AI literacy for our workforce is critically important, especially since it is still so very new and in its infancy stage.
Yeah, exactly. And when we talk about literacy, I think we're also talking about the applications for AI. So, for instance, if somebody just thinks, well, it's about efficiency or productivity, that's kind of narrow. I mean, it is that, of course, it does promote efficiency and productivity and so forth. But what are the range of creative applications for AI to make us more insightful, to make us more collaborative, to make us more, creative, to make us more agile, to promote well-being?
Yeah. What collaborative tools, what automations, what solutions can we provide employees to enhance their productivity? I think of, really, how do we integrate AI into the daily employee workflow? Case in point, at Net at Work, we use AI-driven technology to analyze our internal meetings that we have. We record our meetings. AI reports back and provides intelligent meeting recaps to all attendees. But beyond that, it's providing us with individualized to-do lists, task lists for us to execute on, makes recommendations for next steps. It also provides the team with analytical insights on the true value of internal meetings. Are we wasting our time with staggering number of internal meetings? So that's really helped move the needle on our productivity from an internal meeting perspective. And it's really been a game changer in the last year here in our own organization.
Yeah, no, excellent. Well, Harold, I really do appreciate this. Been looking forward to having this conversation, the first of many for sure.
Yeah, me too. I still feel after 18 months or 2 years of talking about AI, we're still a little bit in the Wild West. But, to me, there's there's a lot of encouragement there that we can experiment with it. We can play with it. We can try things out. We can be innovative. We can think from our creative mind. And this is a great place for us to talk about those things and really, yes, drive the proper governance in an organization about the ethical use of AI, but also get excited about what AI can do within companies today. So it's super exciting, super exciting.
Yeah, well, it may be the Wild West, but there's a new sheriff in town. His name is Harold Bat Masterson Ford.
There we go.
So that's the good news. Anyway, Harold, again, thanks so much. And again, really excited about having you as one of our rotating co-hosts. And we're going to be bringing you back on a regular basis for, we're looking at sort of a field level perspective of AI and HR. So that's going to be really exciting. Today I spoke with Harold G. Ford III, yes, the third, who is the practice director for the Employer Solutions practice at Net at Work. Harold joined us today from his office in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. This is Charles Epstein for the X Factor podcast. Thanks for listening.
Why?